Well, hello there, City Skylines enthusiasts. Welcome back to Flyvox Talks Cities, the podcast based around our beloved city building simulation, City Skylines. My name is Flyvox. I am your host for tonight. I'm not alone. With me is the lovely RaidKitty. Hi, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited. S'mores hopefully will not be joining us on the podcast today as she is napping in the window. So we may have some uninterrupted chat time without a cat getting in the way.
That sounds amazing. So we already know that you have a cat named S'mores. Please, can you tell us a bit more about yourself?
Yeah, so I am pretty new, at least I would consider myself new to this whole content creation thing. I play lots of games on YouTube. I tend to stick to more simulation style games like City Skylines. But on Twitch, I do a little bit more wide variety. I actually did some playtesting for the new Mechabellum game by Paradox. That was a lot of fun. And I also play a lot of Ark Survival Evolved, which I'm currently doing a big series of that with my boyfriend. We're having a great time doing that. So I like dabbling in lots of games. I enjoy doing all of that stuff, playing new games, trying everything out. Just kind of, going with the flow, trying new things.
Very nice. And I'm sure that you all heard about the bomb that dropped in the City Skylines world. We got a trailer for City Skylines 2. Cities 2 is going to release. Tell us, how did you experience the trailer and what did you feel when you watched it?
So, as long as you promise not to tell anyone, I was totally conducting an interview when the trailer dropped. Luckily it was a virtual interview. So I had a feeling it was going to be City Skylines 2. And I knew if it was going to be the big bomb of City Skylines 2, it was going to be at the end because that just makes sense, right? They've kind of been teasing it, they've been working on it. And I was like, all right, but what if it's not at the end? And I had been talking with Shukaboa and we were going back and forth of, is it going to be another DLC? But why would they make it feel so big? I was like, no, it's got to be CS2. And so I had it on with captions. It was on silent and it was kind of propped up underneath the candidate on my screen. We finished the interview and they still hadn't gotten to the City Skylines 2 announcement. And I was like, oh no. And so I pack everything up and I go running back to my desk and I turn it on and I get there right as they had already started the trailer. And I was like, no. So I actually did see the end of the trailer, but it was like this whole time I'm watching it during this interview going, come on, come on, come on. And of course, I missed the whole beginning of it because I was running back to my desk. But I was super excited. I think that the trailer was phenomenal. I'm not really worried about the fact that there's no gameplay trailer at the moment. I think that that's actually in their best marketing interest. And it was just beautiful and wonderful. And it makes me so full of joy that we get to continue this franchise with hopefully all of the little nuances that we've wanted.
Oh yeah, I agree. Well, first of all, sorry to hear that you had such an experience with initially watching the trailer. But yeah, I agree. The trailer itself, I was blown away. It looks so amazing. I've watched it over and over and over. I think I broke it down like a trailer breakdown like 3 times on my YouTube channel because I was like so excited and just watched it. I watched it in 0.25x speed, and then I like frame by frame and just tried to find any hints at actual gameplay, even though, of course, it said not actual gameplay in the trailer. And I agree with you. I think that's the right thing that they did with not showing any gameplay yet. We'll see. We'll see where it goes. But what do you think the game is going to be like? Like, can you speculate about any features or gameplay maybe?
I think the biggest thing, and maybe this is kind of secretly a wish list, is I want there to be seasons that affect the game. And I think they really pushed that in the trailer. And again, maybe it was just trying to show that, oh, there's going to be like the snowfalls included, right? But I really think that there will be some dynamic aspect of seasons, whether it be snow slowing down cars on the road, or maybe, rain leads to less people using the parks or public transit. I do foresee there being some type of punishment, I guess is not the right word, but, interaction between weather and the cities. I also foresee there being a lot more happening on the sim street level. That's not just them walking. You know, they did show people standing there, which we have now, but I think that there's gonna be a lot more interactivity between what we choose and what we see the Sims doing. I think that that's just something that we've been begging for so long, and I see it being a lot more detailed, not just, you know, the blocky trees. So I think that that's really what I'm seeing is seasons and street level sim interaction.
Yeah, oh, 100%. That's very interesting about like the Sims like standing and maybe interacting in a different way. But I also agree with you that the seasons that have been shown in the trailer, like there's you can clearly see it goes from winter to spring to summer and so on. I do think that seasons will be in the game, but I also hope that they affect the game. Like maybe I speculated maybe it's even sort of a difficult mode, a hard mode that you can turn on
Mhm,
that the
mhm.
season affects your game. Like you have to provide the warm pipes over the winter. You have to manage more traffic maybe in the summer. And all of that stuff, I think that that would be really, really cool. Now, if it was for me, I do hope I could play with seasons, but maybe that they just have a visual aspect in the game because I don't know if I could. If I think about it, it could get stressful really quick with with seasons changing how the game actually works. You know, if you're
And I
not.
don't know if you saw my City Skylines 2 wish list video that I put out. The seasons was one of the main things I harped on. Imagine if we could actually have trees that change that we don't have to use Theme Mixer or put new trees down, right? And I also did talk about, like you just said, that hard mode of you can choose whether it interacts with your game. I had talked about the heating pipes. I talked about maybe the summer you have more people at the beach, winter you have more people in the mountains, and how that interaction would really make it come to life.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's very interesting. I would hope that there is something like that. I think a lot of people hope that they would get something similar for Cities 1 when the Snowfall DLC came out, which I guess
Mhm.
was kind of a letdown to some people, thinking that there would be like dynamic weather or even more like dynamic seasons. But we have dynamic weather, but dynamic seasons that actually have not just a visual impact, but also a game playing impact on your game in that regard.
Yeah, totally. Totally was a little bit of a letdown. Having to just play on one weather map. It's like, come on now. Look at like The Sims, right? Like they have weather and it interacts. I mean, you know, I really am crossing my fingers for that one.
I think it's definitely going to be a thing, in my opinion, right? We'll see though what happens with that. So you mentioned a wish list that you had for Cities 2. What are some things that you would 100% want implemented in the sequel?
Oh my goodness. Well, so I am torn because I understand game development and I understand the marketing side of it. And so the player in me really wants all of the features and the things that we love, the DLCs, the content creator packs, to be implemented in City Skylines 2 from the start. Do I think that is a reasonable request? Kind of. Do I think that it's going to happen? Absolutely not. I see most likely we'll probably have industries. We'll have some semblance of airports, whether they're as buildable as they are now, and park life and that kind of stuff. And I imagine that we'll have a lot more of the transit options. But I don't know that they're going to give us the equivalent of every single DLC. Maybe they'll just highlight certain things, you know, and put them in there. But if I had to choose one thing that I 100% want implemented, I think there are just certain mods that console players just I feel for them. I don't I've never played on console, and I understand from my friends who do how frustrating it is to see us PC players be able to have things as simple as Move It or even TMPE. I don't believe that they're going to be implemented in their entirety, but I do think having the ability, even Anarchy, just having the ability to be more selective and purposeful about how we place things and not having a weird bounding box stopping us, right? Rocks don't have square barriers. So I want to be able to place plants right up against it without needing a mod for that. I want to be able to make minute changes and not be bound to a weird grid system all of the time. And so those are things that I want 100% implemented is more free, like free will is not the right word, but I want to be able to make my city my way. And I understand that there has to be boundaries to a game, but there are just certain things that just don't make sense.
Yeah, I agree with that. And speaking of the mods, I mean, I also believe that it would be amazing and probably not too difficult for them to implement maybe light versions of the mods, right? Like, we don't need the entire TMPE mod, but for the love of God, let me select my lane arrows, let me tell the AI not to take a left turn on this intersection here. For instance,
or make a U-turn getting off the freeway.
Yes, exactly. Like, I know the struggles. I was a longtime PS4 Cities player, so I always gazed up, at the PC players and was like, "Oh, if only." And then when I finally made the switch, it's like a whole other game on PC. And so I mean, we just recently, with the free update for Cities 1, we got a very, very light version of Find It. We have the search bar now in the roads menu, in the healthcare menu. We have a sorting option in the transport hubs menu, so that makes it easier to find certain networks, to find certain buildings. And I think it's a super light version of the Find It mod. And for instance, that could be, I mean, I'm not an expert in programming and in like how game mechanics or like how game actually comes together, but I don't think it would be too difficult to implement a light version of Find It where you can just search for certain props in the game and place them down. And the same with like Anarchy, right? What you also said. So I think a couple of light versions, what would be a lightly modded Cities 1 game would be the vanilla Cities 2 game. I really hope that's going to be the thing for Cities 2.
And just like how we have built in unlock all and unlimited oil and ore, it can be a choice. Give me
Right.
the choice to turn it on. Because I consider those mods, but I consider them built in, right? It's like hard mode.
Yeah.
Give me the option to toggle, move it on or off. Give me the option to toggle anarchy on or off before starting that city.
Yeah, exactly. That sounds really good, actually. I like that idea. That would be really cool. The same with as you mentioned, the unlock everything or the unlimited, money, oil, and ore. I would be totally down for that. So speaking of City Skylines 1, RaidKitty, tell me, how did you find the game, actually? When did you first hear about it? And is there anything or anyone that maybe inspired you to start playing the game?
So I feel like this answer comes up a lot, but I found it during the pandemic. So I used to play games, so I still do, but I used to play games with my boyfriend and his friend. We played all the time. His friend and I would share videos back and forth, and we were the ones who have ridiculous Steam libraries because we find it and be like, "Oh, that looks nice," and we buy it, and our Steam library grows. So he actually sent me a clip of one of Biffa's videos. I didn't know who Biffa was. I'd never seen this game before, and he said, "Hey, I found this guy on YouTube. His name is Biffa. He does city fixes, and I find it very satisfying. Will you watch this video with me?" And so we were watching it, and I wish I looked up which video this was before, and maybe we can show a clip of it. But it was one where Biffa was traffic fixing a city that had like a million bridges across this water that made no sense. And the traffic was having problems pathfinding. And I went, "Oh, that's kind of cool." He said, "Yeah, the game is City Skylines. I just bought it." And it was on sale, so I went and bought it too. And I only bought the base game. I didn't buy any of the DLCs. And I started playing it. I was like, "Oh, this is kind of cool." I liked it. I liked The Sims, that franchise. I enjoyed the Tycoon franchises. So I was like, okay, right up my alley. Went and bought, let's see, what DLC had just come out? Sunset Harbor had been out, Industries had been out, Park Life had maybe been out. So there was some that were already out. It was, 2020. And bought all of the DLCs up to date pretty much and started playing. So then I found City Planner, and he was still in the process of building Bluffside Crossing. And I got super into watching him. I joined his Discord, and that's really when I started building this community. I wasn't a content creator yet, and I felt like part of a community there, right? And he threw this event where players got matched up into groups and we had to build a city together. And I got paired up with Joy Build Cities. And she had just started her content creation and she was really pushing get female builders, get female builders. And she's like, "Hey, I think you make great content. We were already planning on recording this in case you ever wanted to show what you're building. Have you ever thought about starting a YouTube channel?" And so that really inspired me to start changing how I played, was that group build. And then Joy really is the one who started my content creation journey. It's been over a year now. It's been almost be like 2 years in November. So year and a half or so. And so that was in 2021 that she really pushed me to start that content creation.
Very nice. I did not know that. That's a cool
Yeah.
story, actually. It's very interesting how you got involved into this content creation journey. That is super cool.
Yep, November of 2021. So I had been kind of part of the community of City Planners Discord for a couple months before that event, as I'll call it, kind of started the collaboration. I think there was like 8 groups, and it was a very interesting, very eye-opening experience. I met a lot of great people, and Joy's really the main one that I continue to talk with out of that group. And yeah, like I said, she's the one who really pushed me into my content creation journey.
So what was your first playing experience like in Cities 1? Is there like anything special that you remember from your first time playing the game?
I remember the first time playing the game, I didn't realize because I was like, I don't need a tutorial. I'm a gamer girl. I got this. So I completely ignored everything that the pop-ups told me. And I didn't realize that you could buy more tiles. So I spent the entirety of my, I would say, first couple weeks of City Skylines playing in one tile, running out of room.
Oh
And
god.
I was so stressed, and I'm showing my friend, and I was like, "Dude, I need help. I don't understand." He goes, "Why haven't you bought more tiles yet?" I was like, "What do you mean?" And so he showed me how to buy a tile, and it was like the most eye-opening experience ever. And so we went through and we looked at the city that I was building, and that was really my first playing experience. It was vanilla, because I didn't believe in mods. I was like, "No, gonna play it the way it's meant." And then B, not knowing I could buy tiles. So once that happened and I visited the workshop, it was like the skies opened and heaven's light shone upon me, and the city skyline gods were like, "Hey, look, this game is amazing."
That is so cool. I mean, you could have just said you're going for the one tile city challenge, right?
Right. I didn't know that was a thing when I started.
Oh my god, that's amazing. That is a truly amazing first experience with the game. That is super cool. What would something be that you enjoy most about the game?
Oh, control. No, one of the things that this game forced me to do is to look at the world around me differently. And I like being able to love where I live. And I love being able to love places I visit and being able to recreate those into the game. Gaseous Stranger is one of the people that has just done amazing taking what they see in the real world and applying it to their cities. I'll be on an airplane flying, and I'll look out the window and go, "Man, that grid layout's gorgeous. Man, that traffic is sucky." And I'll take what I'm seeing and I'll take the things in the real world, and I like being able to have control over it in my city. And I love being able to problem solve and A/B test and all of these things that give me a sense of control, but in like the best way possible. It's how can I take an environment in my life that I can't control and see if I could make it better in a game. And I think that's what I love the most about the game is I love being able to see what I see around me and make it better.
That's pretty cool, actually. Yeah, that's very nice.
Trust me, once you start seeing the world in that way though, it becomes not very nice because the amount of times in an airplane going residential, okay, that's commercial zoning, that's industrial zoning, and you just see the colored blocks in your real life, that's how you know you need a break.
That's time to, yeah, take a break from the game.
Time to step away and go smell the fresh air.
I do understand that, yeah. So, RaidKitty, when we're talking about starting a new city, can you tell us what goes through your mind? And are you the type of player that plans out every little detail up front? Or do you just like wing it? You're like, okay, I'm going to pick this map because it looks cool and we're just going to play the game.
It really depends on the purpose of my gameplay. If the purpose of my gameplay is just for personal fulfillment, I'm not doing any content creation, I'm just building to try new things out or to just play and just lose my mind in the game, it's just go with the flow. I pick whatever map looks pretty. I make sure it has all of the outside connections and all of the industry that I want, and I just go. I just go. But when I'm content creating, some of that whimsical nature unfortunately kind of goes away. And it's not that I plan my whole city up front, but I go in with a broad stroke, right? It's like writing a story. It's what do I want it to start like and where do I want it to end? So I pick a map that fulfills my start and my end goals. I built a desert map for a while before my save got corrupted and my entire PC got erased,
Oh, no.
which was a little sad. It was I think its name was Sandela. It was a sad city to see go, but I knew I wanted a desert city, so I'm gonna pick a desert map, right? And I knew that I wanted to show detailing the way I saw it because I grew up in the desert, and I think the desert is one of the most beautiful biomes that you can ever visit. And so I wanted to show it, and that was about the extent of my planning. For the series I'm about to release, I'm letting AI design my entire city. And that was very difficult because it plans everything out before I go in. And so I lose a lot of the creativity, but I get a lot of the problem solving. So I guess from a broad stroke, I plan things out, but I don't plan I'm not the type of person who builds the entire build before I record. I will occasionally build small segments, like if I'm building an interchange, I want to practice, but I kind of just go with the flow. I know, hey, I'm going to build a new residential neighborhood. Let's go for it. That's about the extent of my planning because that's where I feel like I get my best personality and I get my best, shot is on the fly.
Oh yeah, that's 100% fair. Like to each their own, right? If that works for you, then go for it. That's really amazing. Like that is super cool. And it's like you let AI plan out your city. That is super interesting. That's going to be something to keep an eye out for. That series, the new series of yours.
Depending on when this podcast is airing, it may already be out. I'm really pushing to get that first episode edited so I can get it out. It was really hard to figure out how I wanted to do it, but I knew with the rise of AI, I wanted to let it. I guess AI is not but chatbots basically, right? I don't necessarily consider them AI, but I'm letting bots with creative abilities give me a platform and then I'm interpreting what they're providing me and putting it into the framework of the game. And I want to see if it's going to succeed or fail. The AI doesn't know the confines of the game. And I'm just going with what the AI says. And I'm doing my best to make it functional, but it's not always functional. And I think that that's okay. So I think it's going to be a really interesting series, and you definitely keep on the lookout for it. I think that'll be my big jump back into content creation on YouTube away from Twitch is going to be this AI city.
That does sound super interesting, and I will definitely keep an eye out for that. That is really, really cool. So you mentioned when you first got into the Steam Workshop and you found the mods that it was like heavenly music and it was like a whole other ball game. Which do you prefer today, modded or vanilla gameplay?
Modded, not even a question. I bow to those content creators who can just play vanilla. I bow to console players who can just do it. There are many things about vanilla that I love, but there's a lot that I don't. So modded. Modded,
Modded
modded,
all
modded.
day. Do you have a top 5 mods of all time? Is it possible to narrow it down to 5 mods?
I think it totally depends on my mood and my day. So I had, and it never actually came to fruition, and it might come out later. I had a Dungeons and Dragons city planned, and that was basically I overhauled the entire game with mods, and that was a lot for me to handle. So I don't like super modded. I'm like that light to mid modded. And depending on the city I'm building, depends on the mods I use. But I don't know that I could ever play the game without loading screen mod because I enjoy the optimization that it gives, and I like being able to see what's missing and what's not missing. I would have to say my number 2 mod, and no particular order, is load order. Because again, I at one point when I was doing between my vanilla city or no, sorry, my Sandela city and collaborations and my modded cities, I had 3 or 4 Steam accounts because I got so tired of turning on and off mods and assets. I went, screw it, I'm just gonna get different Steam accounts and do family share. And then the load order mod was like handed to me on a platter, and I was like, what is this? And that just changed my life. Being able to select what I want on and off and not having to worry about accidentally missing one was just amazing. So there are 2. I'm gonna go pretty boring here. The TMPE is a great one. I have to say TMPE has changed the way that my roads function and the way that the AI functions. I love it. I love being able to turn on parking and make them actually park instead of pocket cars. It's great. So I would have to say another one of my favorites is the network multi-tool. I love how it combines so many mods into one. I can create parallel roads. I can make things a gradual grade. I love being able to see the percent of my grades because Jemson, the bridge engineer, has yelled at me a lot of times of my 45% slopes up a mountain. And so there's just so many things in that tool that I love. Being able to connect, start, and finish endpoints, beautiful. So what? That's 4. Ooh, do I dare say move it? There's just something so satisfying about move it because I like being able to change my mistakes and go, not quite the right placement. Anarchy is also a good one. See, this is where I said it depends on my day. All right, I'm just gonna go with it. I'm gonna go theme mixer. Why the heck not? Pull it
Sure.
out of left field. Theme mixer. There I like being able to change the themes on the fly. I love being able to make small adjustments, and I love to be able to mix and match themes to really get the look I'm going for. Since I started playing with Theme Mixer, City Skylines has come out with the ability to have more themes and more colors, which I think is great for people who don't play with mods. But I play with mods, and I want the ability to mix and match LUTs. Thank you.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's a good list. That's a good list. And it's honestly, I think it's very difficult to pin it to 5 mods, which is why I also like to ask the question about just 5 mods. I could have gone 10 mods, but I think 5 is like a good number. I think that you really have to give it some thought, but I think it's a good list, and yeah, I do agree with it in parts. So, RaidKitty, you mentioned that you also, like when you're in real life, you look around, you compare it to game. Is that where you get most inspired from, like real life, or is it maybe also other builders?
I I definitely would have to say real life. I'm not saying that other builders haven't inspired me, but it's not so much that they inspire my build as much as they inspire my gameplay. And I feel like that's a really big difference is how I go about making my build and making my ideas and implementing them. So Shukaboa, Captain Obvious as well, are both really great vanilla players, and they've shown me how to manipulate the mechanics of the game to do what I want. And I think that that's a really great skill to have. And I think Joy Build Cities has done a really good job at showing me great ways to be more detail oriented and providing more space for pedestrians. But that's more of a gameplay aspect, right? And so the way that I decide what I'm going to build definitely comes from real life and what I see around me and the memories I have and the places I visited and how, as funny as this sounds, can I create those core memories for my Sims that don't have memories because they're ones and zeros in my computer, but how can I, if I were that person, take what I'm seeing in real life and create that core memory in the game.
That sounds very nice. Yeah, that's pretty cool, actually. RaidKitty, do you think that the DLCs and the CCPs provide enough value for replayability? Like, are they keeping the game interesting? And maybe do you have a favorite DLC that has come out over the years?
I definitely was a little frustrated at first, especially in the last 2 years or so with the amount of DLCs and content creator packs that have been coming out. But I took a step back and realized that the pandemic shut a lot of that down. And I think that if Colossal Order had had their way and the pandemic never happened, we would have had a more gradual release of some of these DLCs and content creator packs. So that's kind of my one piece on my frustration with them. But my love of them is I really do feel like they add a lot to the game. Unlike some other games where it literally just adds some nice clothes or 1 or 2 buildings, I feel like these DLCs and content creator packs are adding so much to the game that if you do decide to buy them, it will be worth it. So, there have been some DLCs that I'm hesitant to purchase, but every single time I've purchased them, I've never regretted it. Airports was definitely one of the ones I was a little hesitant on. The financial districts as well. And I'm gonna be honest, the only reason I purchased the financial districts was for the Skyline 6 because Captain Obvious, who was one of our guest builders, was so excited for it and he wanted to put it in our city, and I was the only holdout. And I said,
Oh,
"All right,
okay.
I'll buy it. I'll buy it. It's fine. I got it." And I really love the office buildings. I haven't really played with the financial DLC aspect of it, the stock market, but the buildings and the statues and the parks that came with it, 100% worth it. The content creator packs, love the map packs, love the beachfront pack. I love the mid-century modern pack. Will be honest, I haven't purchased the new ones yet because I just got my paycheck, so we'll probably be purchasing that once we get off. I think it keeps it interesting. I think it adds the replayability because not every game you want a big university. My only concern with them is how often are we now using those vanilla assets? When was the last time you placed down a regular airport? When was the last time you placed down one of the box, universities? But it doesn't really matter. You play it how you want. And I think City Skylines as general game has replayability. Here's the kicker for you. My favorite DLC, and I get looks upon looks upon looks for this. You ready? Natural disasters.
I'm looking right now. I am looking. I'm probably the same look. So
I think the reason I like natural now, don't get me wrong, I loved park life and I loved universities. Those are like almost first place, but the reason for me that natural disasters comes in first is I have a huge soft spot for weather and I have a huge soft spot for natural disasters. Just in general, like as the noun or the verb natural disaster in real life, I find them super fascinating. And I wish that natural disasters was tied in with seasons more in this game, but I love the game because I love a lot of the new buildings. I love the radio masts. I love the earthquake sensors. I more often than not play with natural disasters and fire spreading on in my city. I find them super engaging. And I was doing a 100% natural disasters build where I had it slider turned all the way up. And my second tornado was the Chirp-nado. Have you ever seen the Chirp-nado?
no, I don't think I have.
It is a special, like, I think it's a 1 in 500 chance of spawning, something ridiculous, where it is a tornado of chirpers. Think like Sharknado, but chirpers.
Oh my god! I
And
didn't even know that
the
exists.
I have it on camera, but the best thing ever is the voiceover lady has a special line about the Chirpinado. What the natural disasters DLC brought as far as fires when getting struck by lightning, being able to put on the lightning rods, being able to evacuate people and setting routes, those are all things that I want as part of the base game. That in the summer, maybe there's more lightning storms. And so, people have to really be careful. And if you build in a certain part, maybe you'll get tornadoes and you'll have to, you'll have parts of your cities just decimated. I mean, there's just something so satisfying about the natural disasters DLC that is a DLC I will buy again and again and again before buying any other DLC.
That is really cool. I
Probably not an answer you've received before.
definitely not. And I don't think I would consider that even in my top 5. I mean, well, to be fair, I do also love the radio mast that you can place. The earthquake sensor is truly amazing because, again, longtime PS4 Cities player, and I used that to spread the power so many times just so I didn't have to place any power lines to get to difficult spots that are not difficult to reach with power lines without having to destruct anything. And the radio masts, I love those as decorations. I just, not even for the functionality, but as decorations. I love to use them to this day even. But I think for me personally, probably my favorite would be plazas and promenades. I really, yeah, I love that one. It's so amazing. The pedestrian roads, the pedestrian areas, the wall-to-wall buildings, everything about that DLC is so good in my opinion. And I also want to bounce back off something that you said about the financial districts, the parks and the office buildings that can spawn. I love how the DLCs also give console players, vanilla players, more options to make their cities look unique, to beautify their cities, to build more diverse cities with new looks. And I think that alone for me would be an argument for good replayability, because you can then change an entire district in your city to look completely different with, for instance, the financial district DLC, like the stock exchange. It's kind of cool, right? You can play around with it. But I think it's more of it's the main thing. It's the financial districts DLC, right? And the stock market is like kind of the main thing. But for me, I look at it as sort of like just a side thing. But all the other buildings that you have, the banks, like the new service that, collect the cash from commercial areas that make it a bit safer. And all of these new buildings, I think they're just like so amazing to look at, and if you place them, you get that variety in your city that maybe some vanilla or console players are missing because they don't have access to the workshop. And so I think that's really, really amazing. And I agree, I love the mid-century modern CCP. That's a really, really good one. I love what it provides to the game.
Now, can I make one comment? Is I 100% agree that I love the district styles. But can I tell you the most frustrating part of the university's pack?
Please.
They did not include a district style for all of those wonderful buildings that were added.
Right.
So the fact, and it's so sad because I think that those buildings are I love the university buildings. When I built them in the Skyline 6, I had to play whack-a-mole because I wanted specific look and feel. And I feel like that is the only, and correct me if I'm wrong, the only DLC or content creator pack that had a unique district style with the expansion that did not come with a selectable district style that you could put in the game.
Yeah, I think that's right, actually. I don't know 100%, but I think it's correct. Yeah, that should be the only one.
And it's so sad because those buildings are great. But if that's the only complaint I have about that DLC is, oh no, I have to play whack-a-mole, I think they did a great job. And I agree, every content creator pack, I mean, can we just give some praise to those content creators and to Paradox and Colossal Order for allowing that collaboration to take place?
Yes, please. Massive shout outs. That is
applause to you guys, because oh my goodness.
100%. The amount of work that goes into that as well is really, really crazy. And I think it's really cool that Paradox, especially in work with creators to bring us this content. I think it's really, really cool and very unique as well. So, RaidKitty, what is it, in your opinion, that sets City Skylines apart from other city building games? Like, in your opinion, maybe like any unique features or mechanics, maybe?
So, bouncing off of the love that we've kind of been showing Colossal Order and Paradox is, I think, their connection with the modding community. And while I haven't played a lot of city building games, I have played, Zoo Tycoon. I've played the Planet Zoo, Roller Coaster Tycoon, some of those other kind of simulation games. And I think there's something about the connection that I see in this community between content creators, between viewers, between the developers and the players that is just unparalleled in not only any city builder game I've ever played, but in any game I've ever played ever. I have never felt like I am going to go on a live stream and be trolled. I have never felt that I am going to get comments that are just going to ruin my day. I have always had positive experiences with this fan base. And I've always had positive experiences when I've put in bug reports or when I've asked for help. So I think that that is truly what sets City Skylines apart, not only from every city builder game, but every game, period.
Oh yeah, I'd have to agree with that. That is 100% correct. I don't think I have anything to add to that, actually. It's
You
truly
can tell
amazing
when
to
my
see.
passion comes out.
Yeah, it's really truly amazing to see, 100%. So aside from your early on one tile city challenge experience, do you have any other memorable moments or achievements from playing the game that you'd like to share?
So, I don't remember if it was the city that started out as a one tile or if it was a different city, but I have, drum roll, completed one whole city from start to finish and actually been proud. I think that is my most memorable moment, is, funny enough, actually feeling completed with a city. Looking at it and going, "There is nothing else I would change, there's nothing else I would do. This is it." And now since then, of course, there's been more DLCs and updates, and I would probably change a lot of things, but it didn't just fall off my radar, it didn't get corrupted, it didn't, and I played it for me, and I love going back to that city and looking at some of the weird decisions I made, but also some of the great memories. And that was actually the city where I would be at work and I'd be like, all right, so today when I get home, I want to make sure I get to a 3-star university so that way I can unlock this building. And then while that's going on, I'm going to go build an entertainment center and I'm going to make sure I include the concerts DLC. And it was the first city that like took over my life.
Oh yeah, I have something similar actually. That's really cool to hear because it's the same for me, and I think I mentioned that in one of the earlier episodes before, that I do kind of see a city finished at like around 100,000 residents. That's like
Hmm.
the point for me when I would consider it finished. And it all started again on PlayStation when the first city I got actually got off its feet and rolling and running without any issues or without any major issues, because like the first couple of attempts, they were not too great. But then I watched more and more tutorials on it, and then I finally got a city rolling. And when I hit that 100,000 residents milestone, for me, like, not, it's not an actual milestone in the game, but milestone for me, that was truly amazing. And because I had 9 tiles on console only, right, and they fill up pretty quick actually. So once I hit that, it was really really cool to see, because I had that sense of accomplishment because it felt finished, the same as you just said. And the thing that is very interesting now, just thinking about it during our conversation here, is because I did not create content back then, and I remember I can't even remember who it was. I watched some tutorial on how to make a vanilla farming area look more interesting. Like,
Hmm.
I don't. Was there even the specialization? I don't remember. I think the specialization was always there, right? The farming specialization,
Yes.
it was always there. So I had that, of course, but it was like little, use walking paths and some colorful trees to make custom fields. And I just remember I did that in a small scale, and I was so proud of myself for recreating that, what I saw on the video. I took a screenshot, I looked at the screenshot and felt super proud without having anyone to share it with, basically.
Mhm.
Like, no, community, because I wasn't in the community at all. Like, that wasn't in Discord and nothing, no social media whatsoever. And so I just did that for me, and it's kind of interesting thinking back to that now, just doing a build simply for me, or doing a small segment in a city just for me. Like, whenever I boot up the game, I always think about the content creation aspect of it. So I always like try to plan. I like, okay, I can record this, I can record this. This can go on YouTube, this can go on TikTok, this can go on Twitter, all the things.
Mhm.
And so when I really, really have time, which is again not for myself, because I would consider my live streams, my Twitch streams, that is when I really just, have fun playing the game without thinking of an audience, because I'm recording something. So that's really, I mean, and I go back and forth with my chat, of course, with the viewers. But that time, the live stream time, always feels like, to me, like that's the time where I build for me, sort of, if that makes any kind of sense, because I'm not actually making it just for me because there's viewers, but I am kind of in my mind, because that's like the time when I really relax when playing the game somehow.
Yeah, there's something to be said about having an audience that's oddly relaxing. It's like you're getting instantaneous feedback, and I've noticed that too as I've been doing live streams and Twitches. The instantaneous feedback is almost more relaxing than being in my own mind going, "Oh god, I moved the camera too fast. I got to go do it again." It's like, "Oh, it's already over, already recorded. Can't fix it." We're just going to enjoy the moment.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. That's yeah, very true. I just found that very interesting just now that you said that. I just immediately got my head went there, just like, oh right, I barely play the game simply for myself, right? I always think about content creation. So
And maybe that's why we reach burnout so quickly with more simulation style games than I feel like any other game. Is there's so much prep and planning that can be done that we tend to do that we just we don't do it for ourselves. We're so
yeah.
focused on not moving the camera too fast, making sure we don't go too long, but we're not too short. Do we have enough? Is it too much? Am I instructing? It's just, we reach City Skylines burnout that I think we just don't spend enough time loving the game.
That's very true. I think so as well. Yeah. Like there's like maybe another moment where I would consider where I do just go into the game for myself, but that's also because I just like I have different cities. I have vanilla cities on YouTube and modded city on Twitch, right? And
Mhm.
so of course I don't really touch one or the other. Like I don't go to the modded city on YouTube and vice versa. And I always feel like sometimes in the live streams I don't have enough time to do everything that I want to do. So sometimes before the stream starts, I like maybe half an hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour even, go into the city and just start building stuff, preparing stuff that I want to do in the streams. I know it's prepping for the live stream, but that's also the time where I just, I put on some music, I have my headphones in, I just build. I just build stuff. And sometimes I even have to be careful not to get too carried away because I want to save some content for the live
Right.
streams.
I love that though. That's great.
Yeah, so that's a thing, and it's very interesting. But yeah, that's how I play the game nowadays. RaidKitty, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges for new or experienced players in the game?
Ooh, biggest challenges. I think the biggest challenge, especially when I was starting out, is there's so much content, especially now with all these DLCs. And that's where I think the big difference is, right? Is when you started and then when I started, there was DLCs when I started, but not a whole lot. And every time I got a new one, I felt the need to restart a city because I'm like, well, how am I going to implement this into my city? So I think the biggest challenge is not getting overwhelmed and starting small, not being afraid to make a mistake, and knowing that just because you set something down doesn't mean it has to stay there. Rebuilding and everything is always evolving. And that's how it is in the creative world, that I work in, is everything is always evolving. Nothing is going to be perfect the first time you put it down. And you may have something in your brain and you put it down, you're like, wow, this is terrible. Or you may have something in your brain and put something down and go, wow, that's great. Just don't be afraid to try. And I think that that was the biggest challenge for me is perfection was what I wanted. I'm a huge stat driven person. I just said I'm creative, but I'm a huge stat driven person. And when my population wasn't increasing as fast as I wanted, or I didn't have enough fire departments, I had too much fire department. So, YouTube video 1 said don't put um, fire departments on collectors, but video 2 said, well, they're always on collectors. It's like overload of information. Don't allow that to stop you from playing the game.
That's
Don't,
yeah.
just don't.
That's a really good tip right there. I think that's very accurate. The big thing that I really want to pick up on is don't get overwhelmed, because this game, like City Skylines, can be overwhelming for sure. I was overwhelmed. I know a lot of people were overwhelmed, especially in the beginning. And as you said, RaidKitty, especially when like new DLCs dropped, and I also had the urge to start over. Like, oh my God, what, like, new stuff? I got to start over, right? I got to start over, new city. I cannot implement this new stuff into my existing city. But it is possible. But it's just like, take your time, take it slow. Don't get overwhelmed. Same like with the milestones. Like, you reach a milestone in game, the game slows the simulation speed down to 1. Like, it goes to 1 speed automatically, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you get a big pop-up of what is new. That's the game actually telling you to slow it down. And I always, it's like, to this day, I think I even still do it. When I reach a milestone, I pause. I pause the in-game timer completely. I see, okay, what do we have? What did we unlock? What do we need to do now? Just because I've taught myself that as well. Like, okay, easy. Something happened, right? We need to deal with it now. And we'll just have to check everything out and see where everything goes and what we have to do with it, and then you check your budget. What do you do? Can you get more? And all that stuff. And just, yeah, don't get overwhelmed. That's one of the biggest challenges for sure.
And it really is. And I agree. I'm the same way. Of no matter how many cities I've built, I always read that pop-up. It's just like it recenters me.
For sure. RaidKitty, can you share some of your secrets on making cities look more beautiful?
I think, I've received some compliments about my micro detailing, and it's just not something I've ever really seen myself as a micro detailer. But then I look back at some of the builds I've made. I made a fairground with, a horse racing facility and a shopping area and a market and, a family fun zone. And I've made, outdoor markets in the Skyline 6 episode. And so I think for me, my secret on making cities not necessarily more beautiful, but I would say more realistic is kind of what I go for, is pay attention to the small things. I always want to give everywhere a sense of place and a sense of meaning and purpose. Why is this bus stop here? Is there anything I can do to make it look nice? This transit hub, it's, functional, but if I was that person waiting there, would I be looking going, "Oh, great, just a trash can?" And some things that I always say and I've gotten kind of poked fun at before is the amount of trash cans I put down. And I think it's secretly a little bit of panic from the old Zoo Tycoon games I used to play, where if you didn't put enough trash cans down, people started littering on the ground. And I'm
Oh,
always afraid that that mechanic is going to make its way into City Skylines. But I think about myself walking down the street. Okay, I just had my Starbucks coffee. Do I really want to carry this trash around? Where's the nearest trash can? I'm not putting it on the ground. And it's just that user experience, that sim experience, if you will. And so I think that's where the beautification of my cities come in, is every area has a purpose. Every area is centered around making sure the sims have something to do, right? How can I make it look unique? How can I make it not just like every other area in my city? And if you do have some of the camera mods where you can zoom in really close, and not everybody does, console doesn't, vanilla players typically don't, I add even more details. Something where if a person got my save and they went digging, I could probably give them a Where's Waldo book and tell them, hey, go find how many snowmen I hid in market stalls in this district. because I did. In one of my builds, I hid snowmen from the winter DLC that I can't think of at the moment. Snowfall. I hid snowmen from the Snowfall DLC in little market stalls all over the city because it just like added stuff that people would be selling. Not that they'd be selling snowmen, but there's only so much junk in the props area. And so I think that that's kind of my secret, I guess, is make it like a Where's Waldo book. See what you can find, or an I Spy, I guess. Right? I spy 10 thimbles, and you have to go around and look for them. So I guess that's what it is for me, is making every area a place.
That is really cool. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah. You've mentioned Skyline 6 collaboration a few times now. And just to clarify, 'cause maybe someone doesn't know, the way these collaborations work is usually a bunch of people get together and do a save game pass around, essentially, which would be a sort of a multiplayer mode, if you will. And RaidKitty, you have been in the Skyline 6 collaboration. You are in the Skyline 6 collaboration with a bunch of other creators. How was that experience? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I love it. I think, for me personally, my own content creation took a back seat when I joined the Skyline 6. That is not the same for every other creator in the Skyline 6. Everyone is kind of doing their own thing, and I highly praise that, you focus on yourself as well. For me, it just made sense for me to put them first. But I have loved growing relationships with these builders. I have enjoyed after every or not live, but premiere that we've done, we get together and we just have a conversation. I think that we've really built a community on the City of Friends Discord, and I think that no offense to some other collaborations, and I'm not a part of them, so I don't know how it functions behind the scenes. But I think that we are not just 6 separate builders building one city or building cities together. We are 6 separate builders doing one thing. We're 6 heads to the same save, right? And we are communicating and we are building together and improving upon each other. And I think that this experience has been increasingly positive every day. I have never felt anything but positivity towards these people that I've been working with. And I think that we've built a really good following and a really good community. And for me, it's not about the views and the interactions. I enjoy them. But for me, I went into this collaboration to continue to make friends. And I think that that's what I've gotten out of it. That was the expectation I set, and it was well exceeded.
That is super cool. Yeah, it's really important that you get along in such a collaboration with everyone involved. I think that's really great that you're also in this collab. Like you're really, like you said it really cool, like one mind to the city or one mind to the build, all 6 of you. I think that's really, really cool. I've been in the 5B1C as a guest builder, the 5 builders 1 city that Zardus threw together, and I think that was for me, that was an amazing experience. Like
Yeah,
it was
great.
it was truly amazing. Like when I got that message and it's like, yo, do you want to be a partner? Like, oh my god, yes, because just to build alongside amazing creators and amazing city builders was truly like a dream come true a little bit. So that was really amazing for sure. I love these collaborations that that they basically give a multiplayer mode, even if you would technically, you could even do it in vanilla, right, without any mods. And that's something I think is just really, really cool.
And that's basically, how we are doing the Skyline 6 collaboration is, other than visual enhancement mods, we are completely vanilla. We don't have Move It, we don't have Anarchy, we don't have anything like that. We are solely vanilla. Some of that secretly was for selfish reasons of keeping tracks of mods and not breaking the save is very difficult. And so we decided vanilla is best. But the other thing was doing something unique and challenging ourselves. Most of us who are in this collaboration don't play vanilla aside from Shukaboa. And so that was, I think, the challenge, was learning that there is a lot that we can do in vanilla that none of us other than Shukaboa really knew.
Also a little challenge in itself. I like that. And speaking of little challenges, like, is there anything that you struggle the most with in the game? Maybe traffic or layout, demand policies, anything like that?
policies and traffic, I think I've finally gotten a handle on. The biggest thing for me, I think, is creating efficient transit systems. In the part of the US that I grew up in, our biggest transit system was a single like tram that ran from one part of the city to another through a couple major sports arenas. Um, the bus system was not really well utilized. We definitely didn't have metro. And so, I mean, that's just something that I didn't really understand. I didn't know how to make, not too many buses on a line, or how to hit the main points of my city to make it make sense to have this transit. And then once you start doing that, it's important to upgrade or downgrade your transit based on needs. Do I really need a bus, or can I put a metro? Or do I really need this train, or can I put a tram system? So transit continues to be one of my biggest struggles. Just because I'm not used to it in real life. It doesn't make my RaidKitty brain doesn't compute public transit, because it's just not something I grew up around. I grew up in a car. Not literally. I didn't literally grow up in a car, but but I grew up traveling in a car.
Yeah, I didn't think so, but I know
we don't judge here. Those van life people, more power to them. But
true. No, I knew what you meant, but I totally get that. My biggest issue probably is, or the thing I struggle most with is probably, it has to do with public transport as well, like the planning of the public transport. Like, I know the basics, I know what you have to do in order to have an efficient public transportation system, and I know that it can definitely ease up some of the traffic in your city, because like you want, the lines complementing each other, we want to connect your busiest areas, but somehow I always fail to plan for that properly. Then all of a sudden I'm left with, oh my God, this could be an amazing place for a train station. Great. Okay. Where do I put the train tracks? Shoot, I didn't, I didn't plan for this at all, right? Oh, nice. Let's add a tram. Oh, shoot. Wait, I got to upgrade all the roads, which I don't know.
That deletes zoning.
Yeah, I didn't plan for this, right? So that is still something I really struggle with, and I really want to get better at myself as well. So I do know what you mean about the public transportation system. And yeah, where I live, it's okay-ish, but not really good. So yeah, I also don't have that real life example to go off of. And I would also like to know, RaidKitty, is there anything that you dislike about the game? Some people hate on our beloved chirper, the radio stations, maybe the ads that play on the radio stations. What is it for you?
So I have to be honest, I've completely removed the radio stations from my game. It's just, I like the ads, but when you're content creating, I've found that the radio stations, even though they're fun to listen to, if I'm making cuts in my game, people are going to know, because the radio station gets cut off partway through, right? So I've just turned off radio stations. One of the things I dislike about the game, I think, is the pathing mechanics of the fire department, police department, and the industry. And of course the hearses, right? Is you would think, if I have city district A and district B, and I placed one fire department in district A and one fire department in district B, they would function where priority would be closest to the station to furthest away, right? And I think that prioritization in the game is just a miss. There is no prioritization. That there's picking up trash from all over the place. There's no there's no specialization of why would I put a fire department in that district if you're just not going to service it at all, right? And so for me, that is one of the biggest things I dislike about the game, is the pathing mechanics of services.
I will have to agree with that. I will have to agree with that 100%. The pathing sometimes is a bit off, to put it mildly. So
just a little bit.
Just a little bit, yeah. Great example with District A and District B. They're all over the place. Please remain in your areas, right? That's what I think. And I have to agree about the radio stations. For my YouTube, I turned the music off completely, because, as you also said, when you make a cut, You can notice it. You can hear it definitely. For live streams, however, I love to listen to the in-game radio because I do think they have some banger tunes in there. I did, however, recently, or I don't know, semi-recently, a couple of months ago maybe, installed the CSL Music mod, which allows me to turn off the advertisements in the radio stations because it was something in the beginning that I really played into, when all of a sudden there would be an ad and I would always be in that content creation mindset. And, you need some clips for TikTok, for YouTube shorts, for Instagram reels, whatever. And I would constantly play into these ads, and make a joke about them and use that as like content for other platforms, which was really funny. And it was fun at the times. But after a certain amount of time, you've heard those advertisements so much, you can mouth them entirely because you know every single word that they're going to say. And it just becomes so repetitive that I was like, okay, it's time to get that music mod that my chat's been nagging me about like for months. So I got that and turned off the radio stations. But yeah, in general, I think I would have to agree with the pathing. That is something that I also dislike most about the game.
I have to agree about the radio stations having some really good music. I was listening to a radio station in City Skylines and I went, I really like that song. So I went and I found it on Spotify and it is now on my Spotify playlist. It's Stranger by the Cohens. I think it's Cohen, Cohens, Cohens. There is something so good about it. I recommend, and the Cohens in general just have great music. But it's something about that song that stuck out to me while playing the game that I was like, I have to get this in my playlist. This is just like, it's actual music. I love it.
I agree. Actually, I something similar, and I found a song from the Downtown Radio. I think it was.
Okay.
What was it called? I think it was the Sunroof Breakfast from Casuality. I think I'm not 100% sure, but I also found that, or I also got that on Spotify and just listened to it because I think it's so amazing. And it was Downtown Radio, and that song is a banger. It's a banger track, I think, and I really like it. But I also love the K-pop station that also
Yes.
just recently. It's like one of the newer stations. However, I do think it's some songs that are also good, but I feel like for City Skylines they feel a bit aggressive. I feel like they're like dark and aggressive. That's what they feel like to me, at least. And I think the most fitting soundtrack is the Coast to Coast Radio. That
Yes,
one,
that is a good one.
oh my god, it's like those tracks were literally made for the game. Like when I play City Skylines, that radio it's just so fitting. It's so fitting. Those soothing, gentle tunes, the piano music, it's so good. It's just so good, I think.
And I think it's funny because I just pulled up the City Skylines Coast to Coast radio on the side. And yes, you were correct. It is called, by the way, Rooftop Breakfast.
Oh, the
I
casuality, yeah, from the
Yeah.
downtown radio, right?
But I pulled up the Coast to Coast radio, and it was funny because about this content, it says city builders can clear their minds and focus on creating their dream city with tracks that inspire you to build higher and plan better. And I think that that kind of fits exactly with what you said about like it's calming and it's, you
Yeah.
know, relaxing. And it's one of those you're like, yeah, I could jam to this.
Exactly. So yeah, that's something I really enjoy listening to. I mean, I switch them around. Like when I'm streaming, I have them turned on, as I said, but I switch them around like every 15-ish minutes or so, just to get a mix of the vibe, basically. The music mod does have a separate radio station, which is basically just some random highlights it throws together. But that's kind of rolling the dice on the music, so I just tend to go through the radio stations basically one by one and listen to those while we do the live streams. All right, and before we wrap things up, I have one more question for you. Are there any quick tips that you can give to new players right now?
So, one of the things that I would definitely tell new players is not everything you hear on YouTube is set in stone. Try it for yourself, see if it works, We're all human. We're not perfect. The number 2 thing I would say to new players is while the workshop is your friend, it's also your enemy. Try playing the game with 1 or 2 mods installed, maybe start with vanilla, get a feel for how the game functions, because the mods can truly overhaul your game, and it can cause some errors. So add a couple mods at a time if you really want to start with modded, and then strive to add more mods if that's really something you want to do. If you get too many mods in there, it is so overwhelming. And then, as many of us dealt with the newest release of the DLC and the content creator packs, your game's more likely to break and it's going to cause you a lot of frustration. So start small, give yourself the credit you deserve, and then start working bigger, because you're not going to be perfect the first time. And heck, I'm sure Fly will agree with me. We're not perfect even now. We're going to make mistakes and you're going to learn and you're going to have a good time. Dang it, because City Skylines is fun.
100%. I agree, and I would not add anything to that statement. RaidKitty.
I will asterisk that if you don't have a good time, that's okay too. You live your best life, but try and have a good time.
100%. RaidKitty, thank you so much for joining me, for being on the podcast, because that wraps it about up. Where can we find you? You're on YouTube at RaidKitty, correct?
Yes. So you can find me at YouTube, on YouTube at RaidKitty. You can find me on Twitch at RaidKitty_YouTube. That's also linked on my YouTube channel if that's easier. And you can actually find me on Spotify and on Google Podcasts for the Rags podcast that I'm on with a couple other creators, Ack, Grattles, Jemson, and Sakura. So you can find me in a couple different places. I'm not on TikTok like the wonderful host here, but yeah, YouTube, Twitch, and Spotify.
Very nice. And we will link it in the description of the YouTube video for sure. Once again, thank you so much, everyone, for watching, for listening. Have a great rest of your day. Stay safe out there. Bye-bye.